Hey everybody.
Hey friends.
We're here talking about the typical transitions of life. We have a little chart back here, and maybe just think ahead about what have been some of the tough transitions that you've already gone through in your married life, and what have you heard about the road ahead. So in the comments, let us know so far what's been the toughest transition that you have had to deal with. You know, maybe you're newlyweds, maybe it was toddlers, maybe it was teenagers, maybe it was the empty nest. We're caring for aging parents, and I think so far that's the toughest one we've been through.
So we are, for 4 weeks, we're talking to you about how do you tackle the transitions of life. And you probably were a lot like us when we first got married. Like, I knew intellectually we were going to change and that life would go through seasons. I didn't emotionally think that, though. I just thought, you and I would be young and in love forever, and life would just be that way. And I remember the first time I saw a presentation on the typical seasons of life, it was kind of stunning. And I remember thinking, oh my goodness, Pam, our life's not going to be the same throughout our journey.
It might get hard.
Like, some of them are going to be great seasons, and some of them are going to be difficult seasons, and some will usher in just like we thought they would. Others would be a surprise to us. And one of the things we discovered after going to that seminar and then talking with people, we discovered that if we weren't ready for these typical transitions of life, we were going to be surprised over and over and over again. And then the unexpected transitions would be even more difficult.
Right, right. The Bible does tell us in Ecclesiastes that there's a time for everything and a season for everything. And so God actually pre-planned some of these transitions into our life because they are good for us. The New Testament reminds us over and over again to grow in grace. Yeah. And so God really cares about our character and the growth and that we develop into all that He designed us to be. And so sometimes the pressure cooker of some of these transitions cause the growth that make us a better person or make us a tighter couple, a stronger couple, because we've weathered a few storms together. So this chart is from our book, The 10 Best Decisions a Couple Can Make. And it is the typical, it marks off the typical transitions that you might expect as you are a married couple. Now, if you're single, you will go through transitions that are similar, but you have a few extra along the way too. And we'll try to point out a few of those as well. So Bill, tell about the chart.
Well, we don't want to get lost in the details of this chart because it just illustrates the fact that life changes. And if you've been to our website, you know that we're love-wise.com. And our theme verse for our ministry is Proverbs 19:8.
The person that gives wisdom loves life.
Right.
If you want to love life, give us some hearts, give us some likes. If that's one of your desires, is I want to love life too. Yeah, thanks.
And one of the principles for having wisdom in life is preparation. In Proverbs 16:9 says, teach us to number our ways that we might present to you a heart of wisdom. And when you prepare for the next stage of your life and you begin to collect information and you begin to talk to people about what did you do when you hit that time in life, you start to gather wisdom. And that's what the purpose of this chart is. What this chart is a survey of couples in North America who were asked to rate the satisfaction level of their marriage at different seasons of their life together. And you will notice it's kind of like a big V.
Yeah, like the Grand Canyon. We'll talk about why this chart dips down so low. But the best part is those of you who are watching the video, it's like building a bridge over the Grand Canyon because you'll gain wisdom here that will help you prepare well for the transitions on that road ahead.
And the average couple doesn't prepare for what's next. They just do life today and they do life tomorrow, and they kind of live by accident, and they're hoping that because we're in love and because we're in sync with each other, by accident we're going to have a good life together. So this chart kind of represents what happens if you do nothing to prepare.
Like if you just live accidentally, don't be surprised if your life becomes one big accident. Because God has called us to live purposefully. And so we're just going to hit the highlights. We're not going to spend a lot of time here because we want you to jump in and dig in and have a date night on this. And so you're going to want to pick up 10 Best Decisions a couple can make. There's a whole chapter that dives deep. And then we have a few books along the way that, as well as 7 Simple Skills for Every Man, that also looks at the seasons of a man's life. And then 10 Secrets of Living Strong, Smart, and Savvy. That's the woman's edition for those of over 40 in life's second half. So those are some resources. So we'll just hit the highlights here.
And you'll notice that this chart starts way up. And that's people self-reporting when they first get married. Most people say that the first beginning of marriage is really awesome. And
other people fight. We will never fight. All we need is love, love. All we need is love, right? Hey, write down your favorite love song in the comments. I mean, we got to hear what tunes you were listening to when you fell in love, right? We were totally, well, not Barry Manilow.
But we were listening to Barry Manilow.
James was the James guy.
James Taylor.
James Taylor, yeah, that's who we listened to.
And also, when we got married, Stephen Curtis Chapman was just rising up on the charts.
Yes, definitely.
And
I'll be there. Yeah, yes, that everybody had that at their wedding. Like, give me some hearts if you had Stephen Curtis Chapman at your wedding too.
And this doesn't necessarily mean that marriage is easy at the beginning. What it means is that people say their satisfaction level is high in the midst of life.
A lot of it's because they have some time together. Sometimes it's like 2 rushing rivers coming together, so a few rapids. But definitely that early season of marriage, people's marriage satisfaction is a little bit higher because they have time to spend with each other and not so many distractions.
Plus, there's a chemical reason why satisfaction is high, because God has designed the human body to jumpstart love relationships. That when you commit to the person that you love and say, we're going to do this together, there is a chemical that gets released in the brain. It's called phenylethylamine, commonly referred to as PEA. That's kind of a narcotic substance. And it causes you to have this sense of addiction toward the person that you're in love with. And you literally don't look at them like, I don't want to say you don't look at them realistically. It's just you look at them with glowing reviews all the time.
Rose-colored glasses.
And you know that look you see in young lovers, they're just like kind of starstruck. And, that's PEA at work. And the good news is it's there to help marriages start off well.
Jumpstart.
The bad news is it lasts 18 to 24 months, and once it's gone, it's gone. So
you have to start putting in those good habits early. Last week we talked about how to touch the heart. That was the first way to tackle a transition, is to stay connected and touch each other's heart. Tonight, we are going to tell it like it is. What is coming on the road ahead so that you can be prepared. And so the marriage satisfaction starts off pretty high. Now, if you're single, you might want to pick up single men like waffles, single women like spaghetti, because maybe you're wondering, are there any great guys out there? Are there any great girls out there? There are. Sometimes we just might need we might just need to change a few of our habits in order to open up our world a little bit more, so we can meet more of the kind of people that we might want to marry. So that's your tip for the singles for tonight. Then you'll notice, happiness, first 5 years of marriage, we have a book there. And it's good to practice some good traits in those first 5 years of marriage. In our research, we found out that 1 out of every 4 marriages ends before year 4. And so, it is really important to put those date nights in, get your mentors, get in that small group, that marriage small group at your church, so that you have some strength around you early on in your marriage relationship.
Like studies say that the couples with the best marriages are praying together on a regular basis. It doesn't have to be daily, although
that's what we recommend.
If you keep it simple, you could pray daily. But they have a regular prayer time together. They spend time with other couples who believe in long-term marriage, so a small group, and couples that go to church and spend time worshiping together. Just have better relationships.
Right. So, it seems to be a corollary, the closer you draw to God, then God boomerangs that passion, that love right into your marriage relationship.
And the other thing we've discovered is couples who are intentional about how they approach conflict, and couples who deliberately make decisions together.
Like having red hot monogamy on a regular basis.
Yeah,
that's a good decision.
That's a good one. Those couples tend to have a better emotional atmosphere in their relationship.
You notice the chart goes down in the second stage. Second season would be when you start having kids. I mean, that one surprises us because oftentimes we really look forward to it, but then we realize that Bill likes to say we've just given birth to the biggest intruder that we'll ever have in our marriage.
Yeah, kids are awesome, but they're relentless. And they're on when they're on, and when they want you now. They aren't interested in taking time. They're not interested in tomorrow. They want to do it now.
So, like, in the comments, tell us how many kids that you have, because we're going to want to pray over those kids too, and pray over your marriage, those of you who have kids, because it is a little bit of a growth time where you have to, like last night we were at a small group and they were all young families, all had bunches of little ones under 5. And the husbands and wives definitely had to be proactive, figuring out what their prime time is together, whether it's like, the 15 minutes right when dad walks in the door or mom walks in the door, or is it like, let's get the kids settled, we need to debrief, and then 30 minutes later we'll, grab some iced tea and head to the swing in the backyard, or is it like, let's feed them dinner, get them into a bath, get them to bed, and then we'll take our, 15, 20 minutes to connect up, or is it like that 30 minutes right before we go to bed and just crash because we're exhausted. So look for your prime time. Right. What is your prime time?
Because the bottom line is you have to be more responsible because you have children, and your love has to be more efficient because your children are going to interrupt you on a regular basis. And they're the source of great stories, but they can be the source of great frustration if you don't deliberately spend time together.
So kind of give us an idea what your prime time is. Is it like AM, coffee together? Is it like noon, lunchtime, you call each other on the phone to get connected? Or maybe drop by each other's office to have some lunch, or is it in the evening, PM? So AM, noon, PM, tell us what your prime time is, okay? Because you're going to need to invest in that relationship. You'll notice that the chart slides down again, and this one is one that we don't talk about very much, and that is a woman's midlife evaluation. Now, there's 2 midlife transitions in a woman's life, and this is the first one. It hits about between 28 and typically about 36. Somewhere in there, like once the kids get all in school and things settle down enough that mom has time to think, she's like, why am I here? Why am I on the face of this earth? Like, what was I created for? And sometimes there's a little discontent. I call it holy discontent. And like, we don't even know we're really asking that question, but we're like just kind of, things hit us wrong, and like you might be a woman in this midlife reevaluation if you like walk into the living room and you see a coffee mug and you're like, am I the only one that can see this mess? Yeah, you might be a woman in midlife. Or maybe you don't yell, you just like go into the kitchen and you start loading the dishwasher really, really loud, and some brave soul like your husband.
Would you like some help?
Oh no, wouldn't want to put anybody out here or anything, little martyr. Yeah, you might be a woman in midlife. So the best thing to do if you're one of those women in midlife, grab a book like 7 Simple Skills for Every Woman because it will help you find your uniqueness. Why did God create you for such a time as this? And get into Bible study with other women. That this summer I'm going to be running a study on 7 Simple Skills for Success for women. And so I'll put the link when that is available. And then grab a mentor. Grab a mentor who's gone through this season and wants to pour into you and help you soar and succeed. That's how to succeed at that transition of life.
Mm-hmm. And the other thing that happens in here is everybody just gets busy. Yes. You begin to realize our family, it's important to us, and our family's going to be really expensive. Like up until this point, we think about jobs, but then suddenly careers become important because our kids cost a small fortune. And just taking care of their basic needs, keeping them fed and clothed and involved in school and whatever other activities they're going to be involved in costs. But then they tend to break stuff. And we were talking with one of our sons, and they had the opportunity to see one of their kids peel a bunch of paint off the wall in the bedroom.
Just today.
Yeah, and she wasn't trying to cause harm.
Not malicious, just hey, what's behind this, right?
And so you begin to realize this life's going to cost us. And so everybody gets busy. And there's nothing wrong with being busy, but if you aren't intentional about spending time together when the busyness hits, you can forget the important people in your life, and you can neglect the important relationships of your life because you're sincerely trying to keep up with your responsibility.
We call it the superwoman, superman syndrome, where you just pick up life and you run full steam ahead because there's stuff that needs to be done. And oftentimes you live on parallel tracks, husband this track, wife this track, and you just miss each other. And so be intentional with those date nights, getting away together, go on vacation, ask grandma and grandpa, or aunts and uncles to watch the kids so that you can reconnect. Because
well, I know during this time of our family cycle, the thing I appreciate most about Pam is she put together a family calendar and made it visible. And everybody in the family had a different color. So we could quickly walk into their kitchen and we could see what our family was doing. And the kids could see when our dates were.
Right, they were marked on the calendar with a little heart.
And we could see when our designated time to spend time with our kids was.
Right.
And the kids could see that they had appointments that we were going to be at, just like we had appointments that they had to respect.
Color-coded calendar, or grab one of those great apps that puts everybody's calendar on one page so that you can see when to grab some time together, mom and dad. Because it's important, because you'll see the chart keeps going down.
And that's because at some point us men evaluate our lives. It's been affectionately called midlife. And midlife is not so much an age as it is a developmental stage of life. Because at some point as men, we come to grips with the fact that we're actually mortal. Because when we're young and we have lots of testosterone running through our bodies, we feel invincible. And we might get hurt, we might take a risk, but we know we're going to recover quickly and just get back on track. And suddenly something happens that convinces us, you know what, we're not as strong as we thought we were going to be. And I remember what happened in our circle of friends. A 40-year-old friend of mine who was kind of the perfect height and weight for a man in his 40s, he had a heart attack. And he had this heart attack the way only a 40-year-old man will do it. He was driving home from work. He felt a pain in the left side of his chest, and it was radiating down his arm. And he said to himself, I think I'm having a heart attack. This is probably my last opportunity to eat a meatball sandwich. Well, the local deli was having a special 2-for-1 on meatball sandwiches. So he stopped and bought 2 meatball sandwiches, ate one on the way home to pick up his wife, ate one on the way to the hospital to get checked out, and sure enough, he was having a heart attack, and those are the last two meatball sandwiches he has eaten. And because this man wasn't overweight and he wasn't out of shape, all of us who were friends of his, we kind of panicked and thought, boy, if this could happen to him, it could more easily happen to me because I think he's in better shape than I am. And so my friends started getting gym memberships. A couple of them looked into working with the youth so they could get more active.
They're like unbuttoning their shirt. I'm like, oh, old guy buttoning it back up, right?
And the reason why it's so intense is, first of all, these physical changes, we're not used to them. You know, as much as we joke about you ladies going through change on a regular basis, it forces them to be to think that change is normal. As men, you know, from the time we get through puberty until we hit this stage, things are pretty static for us. And so we're not used to physical change. And then, because we're living longer, we're getting ready to go into a stage of life where the 50s and 60s are the most influential time of life now. Because most people are living until they're almost 80, and so it's added this segment of life where our influence goes to its peak. And so there is a personal and spiritual struggle that happens in our 40s, trying to discourage us before we hit this moment of influence.
Right, both men and women. Satan just wants to wipe you out, wants to wipe your marriage out. The number one bell curve for marriages to fall apart is right there. Yeah. Right there at midlife, between 45 and 55, sometimes 60. And so we need to battle. We need to battle together, pull together and battle this. And, you know, when it hit in our life is, like I had started an organization called Seasoned Sisters when I was in my early 40s, because I saw the stress that was in women's lives in their 40s. I mean, if you time it really, really well, you are dealing with teens and tweens, or maybe you had a bonus baby after 40, so now you have hot flashes and a toddler. Whoa, life can be unfair. And so I saw the stress that was in women's lives. And so I gathered my girlfriends together. I said, the rest of life can be the best of life, but we need to do this together. Sister one another. And that means hammer our lives together so they can bear more weight. It's a building term, sistering. And so that's what we did. We gathered the Seasoned Sisters together. And I thought that I started this organization because I had this new book coming out 10 Secrets to Living Strong, Smart, and Savvy. So I thought it was, you know, to help other people around the world and have their own seasoned sisters group in their own city. Oh no, I was the first sister that needed that help. And the reason why is because Bill, we were out doing a TV spot.
Right. We told you the story last week about I entered the high blood pressure club and ended up resigning the senior pastor that I had in order to do this ministry together with Cam. And it was just like it was a good transition. It was a tough one because I had to admit that I was making a change in my life because of physical, what felt like weakness. And it was just not fun. So I was not the happiest guy to live with during that transition.
Right, a lot of emotions on both sides because this always brings a lot of change. And so go back and rewatch that Touch the Heart when you're at this stage of life because you want to put those skills in there to make sure you stay emotionally connected because it's so easy to blame each other. But the good news, here's the good news. The chart does go up. That's right. Look at, check it out. The chart goes up. Yay. And the reason why the chart goes up is because your kids leave home. Hopefully. Failure to launch. Nowadays, that's a big one. Adult kids are staying with their parents much longer because of economic issues and other things going on. And so that's like we encourage you to be very proactive with your adult kids too. Make them stand up on their own 2 feet and don't just keep being mom and dad to them. Help them fly and soar. Because what you do want that second honeymoon that's coming when the kids leave. And then they start getting married and then they start having grandkids and whoop, whoop, that's the stage we are. Yeah, the payoff for hanging in there is your grandkids, right? So if you are a grandparent, put some happy smiley faces. There's some hearts. We want to know who the grandparents are there with us. And the thing to keep in mind at all these stages of life is not to blame one another when you're going through these stages of life. And then enjoy.
And this rise at the end over here, there's a number of reasons why that happens if you transition well. Because if you transition well, you start to realize, you know, we do have an influential life. And there are people that want to hear from us. And those of you who are listening who may feel like nobody wants to hear from me and the younger people don't want to hear from me, it's not true.
They do. They need mentors.
Yeah, they may not know how to ask you, but they want to hear from you. And if you're nervous about it or you're wondering, you know, if what we're telling you is true, I would encourage you to pick out 2 or 3 younger people in your life that even if you don't know them, if they go to your church, if they're friends of your kids, just invite them to lunch. Offer to pay for lunch. That'll probably get them there.
Or invite them to your house or invite them over for dessert after church. And just be like, hey, if there's ever any questions that you have, you know, we'd love to pour into your life. We see you have this potential and we'd love to walk alongside you. It's kind of like bumper bowling. I'm not a very good bowler. If you're a bowler, like, give me some hearts and likes because you'll get this, right? I'm not a very good bowler, and so I need those little bumpers that come up, and I throw the ball down the middle, and it kind of boop, 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 boop. That's what mentors are. They help you stay in the middle of God's will, even when you're going through tough transitions.
And if the thought of being a mentor is too much for you, just tell the young folks, hey, you know, when I was your age, I had some questions and I wasn't sure who to ask them of. So if you have any questions about life, whether it's about career, family, raising kids, I don't know if I have answers, but I'll do my best to answer the questions that you ask. And just see what happens. Because when you begin to see that your life is influential and that other people are benefiting from it, there's a deep satisfaction that happens. And the other thing that happens here is if you get through all the tough stuff and you reemerge as friends. And I do say reemerge because we live in a day and age where technology can pull you apart. And we're seeing a lot of people, you know, when they go through this midlife to second half of life, they re-engage with people from their past on social media. And all those people look easier because you've been through the war together and you've lost responsibility together. And there's a temptation to find somebody easier. But if you
they're not easier.
They're not easier. And if you avoid all that and re-engage as friends,
right,
you have this deep sense of, you know, we went through life together, we built a life together, we raised kids together, and there's a deep appreciation for one another that rises up. And people who stay at it for 40, 50, 60 years, they typically say we've had our moments, but I'm married to my best friend.
That's right. It's never been better. Our intimate life is precious. And so it's worth it to hang in there. And what we found out is, like, studies say that couples that are on the rocks and decide to stay together, their marriage satisfaction level 5 years later is higher than it was before, and higher than those who choose to divorce. All divorce happens. We don't want to, like, make anybody feel bad, etc. But divorce does complicate your life. I mean, it breaks hearts. It tears families apart. There's a lot of, like, super glue from God that needs to happen to help families go forward after divorce. And so if you can just look for ways, like, go out and go to some of those divorce prevention classes and conferences, like come to one of our Manor Life Waffles, like Spaghetti. We've seen so many people, like, their marriage is saved by session 3, learning how to forgive one another and restart and re-engage and reconnect even after some really hard stuff. And, you know, it's worth it, because your kids, your grandkids, marriage is not just about our happiness and our satisfaction. Your marriage is a light to the world. Yep. And your kids, your grandkids are looking towards you and your relationship.
And they do find great security when you recommit to your love in the second half of life. So
we just want to leave you with one last tip. That is, enjoy when the chart goes up. I'm like total Nana now. The other day I was grocery shopping, and my little granddaughter was with me, and she pointed at those colored marshmallows, and I'm like, sure, we can get that. Mike has never.
There wasn't even a breath between the question and the answer.
And so, you know, it's okay. It's okay to enjoy being a grandparent. But, you know, there are stages here that can fracture your love. And one day we were in one of these early stages when the chart was just starting to go down, but the stress was really high. And we're standing in our bedroom, and I'm like, what's wrong? Like, what are you doing wrong?
I'm not doing anything wrong.
Well, like, I don't think I'm doing anything wrong.
I don't think so either.
Like, why is there so much stress?
And I don't think it's either one of our faults. Like, it's not you, it's not me. It's just life.
And I thought about all the responsibility we were handling and this plates that we were spinning, and I said, you're right. It's not you, and it's not me. It's just life.
And you don't want to be like this one guy that came to me, so I've been thinking about this. Let me see if I got it right. So it's not me, and it's not life. It's just you. Don't go there. But it's a good thing to remind each other that life is just strenuous here on this earth. That you may be having difficulties and struggles just because you live. It may not be because you do anything wrong. It's just that you have significant people in your life, and we're all imperfect, and so we go through seasons of challenge. And so next time you're in one of these seasons of life, see if it's helpful to look at each other and say, it's not you.
It's not me.
It's just life.
It's just life.
Yeah.
Cord of 3 strands. Invite God right into the middle. The Bible tells us the cord of 3 strands is not easily broken. And so as you go through the storms of life and tackle these typical transitions, prepare well, pray up, and then learn just to press into each other and not pull apart. And
what we've discovered is all these transition times are temporary. You do come out the other side.
Yes.
You come out a stronger person, a wiser person, and if you banded together, you come out with a stronger love. And so we want to thank you for joining us, and we would encourage you to visit our website, love-wise.com.
Right before Bill talks about what's at LoveWise, if you have a question, we have time for one question tonight, and we'll take multiple questions and then answer some of them next week too. But if you have a question about one of these stages of life, just type it in as Bill tells you about some wonderful new opportunities at LoveWise.
Right. We made a decision this last year that we have information that needs to get to more people. And so we decided we're going to make it more accessible. And so we created a membership plan at love-wise.com. And the one I think is going to be most popular is what we call a digital membership. It costs $1.98 a month because Proverbs 19:8.
Person that gets wisdom loves life.
And what that includes is on a regular basis, we are releasing digital resources. So it includes a podcast that has my sermons that I've been doing for the last 10 years that are, I mean, they're up to date. The one I'm working on right now is the story of Elijah and the moments of his life and how they relate to the moments of our life. And I'm releasing it as soon as I get it edited. I'm getting it released, and we're releasing a series.
Right now, Brave New Woman. It's a podcast series that you can get if you sign up for that digital membership. Just go to love-wise.com, click on the subscribe button, and you'll see the 3 different levels. And choose the one that's best for your family.
Right. And some of those resources are available right now, and some of them will be released week by week because we want to get as much wisdom into your life as we possibly can, and we want to be able to afford to do it. So we're asking people to just give a little bit, and we will give away all of the digital information that we have been garnering over our ministry life, and hoping that it helps you have stronger relationships and a stronger life.
So remember, it's not
you,
it's not me, it's just life. Invite God right into the middle of your life and tackle those transitions.
So did we get a question yet?
Together. No questions yet. So we will send us your questions either here or info@love. We'll tackle some questions.
Next 3 to 5 years, and ask yourself what transition can we expect to be coming down the road, and where can we get good information to prepare ourselves? Because if you're ready for the transition, you won't be surprised by it.
That's right. Prepare well for those transitions. I'll put the link to download the listening guide because it's a great thing to take. It's this chart plus some questions that you can take on a date night so you can have that conversation. What's coming ahead? How can we best prepare? And who are the wisest people we know that's been through that transition successfully? Let's go have coffee with them.
So let's pray together, folks. Father, we thank you so much for the opportunity of knowing you, and thank you that your reward for going through life is wisdom. It's not always easy, it's not always clear, but as we trust you and as we grow through the transitions of life, you raise the wisdom level in our life. And we thank you so much that you make wisdom a part of our journey. And so, Lord, for each person that's watching this video, would you give them the wisdom that they need for the next transition in their life? Would you help them to see what's coming? Would you help them to see the skills that will help them navigate that time well? And would you reward them for their faithfulness on the other end by causing their relationships to be stronger and deeper and more resilient? And so once again, we commit each of our listeners to your grace. And we pray that you would give them your resources for living victoriously as life changes around them. So Jesus, may you be honored as we continue to grow. In Jesus' name we pray.
Amen. Hey, if you live in California, join us on July 14th in the Central Valley in Bakersfield for Passport to Love.
Yes.
So I'll give a link for that too.
All right. God bless you, folks.